Hey, welcome everybody. My name is Jay Schlosser. I'm the Development Director for the City of Tehachapi. Here also from the City of Tehachapi, Jason Wyatt, Andrew Norton, Assistant Engineers for the City, and Denise Jones, a Development Services Technician. Key Budge is our Public Affairs person. We're filming this so that we can post it on YouTube, and I'll explain to you guys here in just a minute why we're going to do that. We appreciate you coming, first of all. So today is just a workshop to exchange ideas, to let you know what we're doing and ask you guys for ideas about what's going on in the city. Active Transportation Program, ATP is what the acronym stands for. The federal government decided, like it or hate it, that they wanted to start prioritizing federal transit dollars towards non-motorized transit. And California jumped on that. That's a very pro-California type of thing to do. So they have these programs, and they're very competitive grants, but the City of Tehachapi's had a great deal of success in the last 3 cycles, getting far more than our fair share of, and that probably we shouldn't have on the video, but our fair share of ATP monies for the City of Tehachapi. So some of the projects that you might have seen that we've done before, the bike path on Valley Boulevard, all the sidewalks that we did that kind of connected the schools together on like C Street, Valley Boulevard, Denison, that's an ATP project. And then we're queuing up 2, a big railroad safety project through the downtown. That is going to be a huge enhancement to pedestrian, bicycle safety, and vehicular safety through downtown. And then we have a project on Cherry Lane that we're also working through that's in the process. But anyway, they made a cycle 4, so the 4th call for projects to apply to the grant program. And so part of the metrics that successful applications are based upon is public participation. So whenever these cycles come up, we have a meeting like this or a couple meetings like this where we ask you all what you're thinking and let you know what we're thinking about projects that we think will be successful. So in brief, one of the unique features, by the way, of ATP is that you can get a project 100% grant funded, which is very rare in the infrastructure world, and very advantageous to us. We send a lot of our tax dollars to Sacramento and to Washington D.C. and I at least don't always feel like it comes back to us in complete equality to what we send over there, and so we fight hard for these grants in order to try to bring some of those dollars back to the community and see what we can do. So with that as background, let me do this. Instead of telling you guys about the projects we're doing, I'd like to hear from you guys, and maybe you've thought about this a little bit. So this is non-vehicular traffic improvement projects. So do I agree we need to repave some roads? Yes, we do. Could we expand some roads? Yes, we definitely could. But these funds can't be used for that. So tonight's topic is primarily pedestrians and bicycles, Americans with Disabilities Act kind of improvements, places where we see deficiencies in the town to people being able to get from one place to another outside of driving in a car. And so your thoughts, and let me also preface one last thing before you give me some feedback as you're thinking about any places where you see a problem, is that we're tasked with trying to figure out what is going to be a competitive project. And so we have lots of great ideas about places where we could use bike paths or pedestrian walkways, but they aren't always going to rank really high. A good example of that for you all is recreational paths rarely rank highly. And the reality is they want this money to go towards closing barriers to mobility, not building a beautiful track across the hills that we might use for recreation. It's not to say we've never tried for those projects or that we won't try for those projects in the future, but please keep that in mind as you're giving us ideas and you hear what we have for you guys tonight. So with that, feel free to shout it out. Let me know thoughts on places or questions about the program.
When you brought up Cherry Lane, I don't know what you're talking about.
We received an ATP grant. We're working on the design right now for the south side of Cherry Lane from Tucker Road all the way to Elm. We're going to finish all the gaps where there's missing sidewalk, and we're going to put in a pedestrian flashing beacon all the way down at Elm because we know the cars come roaring around that corner and can be a little unsafe. We've received a number of complaints from folks in that area, so that's that project.
Thank you.
So. Yeah.
Excuse me. My wife and I enjoy coming to the festivals they have downtown.
Sure.
She uses a motorized scooter.
Okay.
And sometimes we have to park in the residential areas. Those residential areas are not ADA compliant. There's no access where to get out. And I tell you, lifting an 80-pound scooter myself, getting my wife out, is a chore.
Sure.
I would say that's got to be, from a federal standpoint, got to be a priority.
It is a challenge for us. Yeah, so answer to a couple questions, or we do also have a new parking lot going in downtown that'll be starting construction hopefully in just a couple of weeks. We're still working with the contractor to get started, but that'll be right next to where the VFW is on the north side of Tehachapi Boulevard, and it'll all be ADA compliant, and it'll have some access points to connect you back to downtown. So that's an option for you if that parking is a challenge. And then we are sort of block by block in the downtown area, but I think your point is valid, and I think that one of the notes we should take from this is looking at some of the more heavily traveled downtown streets, particularly around Central Park and then around the immediate core of the city. So we'll take that as a note and consider that in future applications. I think that's a great comment. Yeah.
I know that y'all have done a lot of work on Curry up by Tompkins and all of that. And
Sure.
It's great with the safe route to schools and all of that. And I know that you've got your projects that Snyder, I will just start in right now. Snyder needs a lot of work.
Yeah. It gets a
You
lot
guys
of
did a
pedestrian
great-
traffic. Yep.
You did a great improvement at Anita and Snyder, for all of that. But I live at D and Snyder, and I've lived there for 30 years, and the things I could tell you that the kids are doing and what happens,
Yeah.
and that is just a mess.
It's crazy. And that is one of the projects we're going to present tonight. So
And,
we agree.
graduation
Yeah.
is, a big thing for the schools. They
Good
all
point.
graduate, and, the access for people, especially, that are in scooters or in wheelchairs and things like that, there's
Yeah.
no way for them to get in and be safe. if
Well, to
there's
park
not
on a public
parking.
street and then make their way there without literally driving in traffic is about the only option you've got.
Yeah,
And,
because
that's
there's
not
no
a safe
sidewalks
option.
on that whole.
Yeah. Okay. That's, yeah.
Yes, the completion of Antelope Run and bicycle entrance and handicap entrances up at the Warrior Park. There is no way I see electric cart guys tearing their little carts up, trying to get on into the park because there's no handicap entrances.
Okay. That's about, yeah, so Warrior Park, that's a good one. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Antelope Run, we are actually, both phases of finishing it. The piece from Tehachapi Boulevard to Valley is in process, and then we also have an application. We were successful in getting a bike application to finish from where the little de facto parking area is there by, on Tucker, I don't know, a quarter mile down
Right.
from Highline to Highline. So we're going to finish the path up to Highline, and we're going to build a real parking lot there. So that's actually in process.
Okay,
So
I've
yeah.
got one more.
Others,
On
please,
Antelope
yeah.
Run, because we're getting the Walmart, there's a street called Conway Road.
Yep,
And
I know
there's a
Conway.
Conway path that's going to be a Class 1 according to our recommended bike path here. Let me see if I can't find it real
Yeah.
quickly. See here?
Yep.
Conway path that goes over to Conway. I think
Yeah.
it goes over to, is that going to be finished? And
That's not part of the project.
could we get
no.
a little bit of money from our deep pockets friend that are going to be coming into town?
Well,
Maybe.
those decisions got made a number of years ago, unfortunately. That path is not in the project.
It
And
is.
Walmart is, to give them a little credit, they're chipping in quite a bit of money.
I know
but
they
that piece is not in there. So, and I don't have a good answer for you. You will be able to access through I take that back. What Walmart is building, and there is pedestrian bicycle access to their parking lot, they're building a park and ride
I
on
heard.
the corner of their property
Yes.
that will directly access the path. And so for those of you who cycle for recreation purposes or exercise purposes, or if you live near Antelope Run and want to ride a bike, you'll be able to basically ride a bike right into the Walmart parking lot.
Excellent.
Or drive there and park a car there and then get on the path. It's actually, that section of the parking lot is going to be dedicated over to the city as public access, so it's not part of their parking lot. They'll not be in control of it. It'll literally be a public park and ride. So anyway, so some of those things are getting done. Great comments though. Other items? Okay, well with that, yeah, please.
Does this include any maintenance on our current sidewalks, like
No.
the ones that are tore out now?
No, it's a great question, and it's frankly one of the biggest difficulties to operate a small city in the state of California. Let me try to illustrate that point briefly for you. I've got a friend who's in a similar position to mine in the state of Colorado. They get, of their 7 or 8% sales tax, 3% of that sales tax stays local. To compare it to you all, Here in California, 1% of the 7.5% you pay whenever you buy anything stays here local. And sales tax is literally the #1 revenue source for the city of Tehachapi by a long shot. It's nearly half of our general fund. So if we tripled that number, things like maintenance wouldn't be an issue. But grant funds like these, they're not interested in maintenance. The nice thing about sidewalk projects or even well-constructed bike path projects is they're not maintenance intensive. Sidewalk, if just swept and properly built, will last 30, 40, 50 years with next to no work, presuming we catch the missing spots of sidewalk. But anyway, so we try to pick projects that we can maintain. In fact, the city's instituted a policy in the last few years of every capital project that we do is vetted through an evaluation of the long-term expected maintenance expense and whether we feel like we can tolerate that growing maintenance expense. So there's a step we do. But no, funds like these, they would not fund a project for any maintenance purpose.
What's going on with the ones that you guys tore out and put DG down?
Those we're just funding straight out of the city's general fund. So
I know, but when are they going to be complete? They've been that way for some time now.
yeah, we try to bundle them up. Like I said, that's what I was trying to mention to you before the meeting started. We do have a project with 19 or 20 locations that we're trying to get out to a contractor right now.
Oh, okay.
But we try to bundle them up because we get a much better price instead of hiring a contractor to go literally fill one little spot if we gather up 20. But what that means is inherently the very first broken one might stay broken for a year while we're coordinating and waiting for a large enough supply of work.
I have one more question. What about the overgrown trees and bushes and everything that just hang out? Who's responsibility for that? I know years ago the city used to actually do it, and I know there was complaints and
It's a mixed bag. In certain locations, certainly if it's adjacent to public landscaping, it's the city of Tehachapi's responsibility to keep the overgrown stuff cut back. In most private property situations, it's the responsibility of the private property owner, which can be a mixed bag. Some people are very attentive to their landscaping, and some people are the complete opposite of very attentive to their landscaping. And in those cases, that's when Public Works kind of goes out and makes a case-by-case decision about whether or not we trim it or whether or not, I hate to sound negative, but this is the reality, and whether we send code enforcement out and say, you need to trim your tree or you're going to receive a ticket from us. But there are certainly locations where it's gray area, especially when we have sidewalk that's like offset from the roadway and there's planting in the middle. That gets really debatable. We'll get somebody that comes in and says the city planted that's your tree. A lot of times that's not true. Sometimes it's true. Or sometimes we literally don't know, and the tree is this big around. It's probably been there for 40 years, and there isn't a city employee alive that was there when it was planted. So anyway, let me go.
But there is a way to call and report it, though, right? If you do.
Just report it on a request tracking.
We have the request tracking system, and in theory, you get a response from us as to whether or not we're going to take care of that or whether we feel like that's your obligation.
Are they going to plant the median planter on Curry there?
Eventually, yeah, that was one of those ones we do. It is on our to-do list to work through a plan. We're in between public work directors at the moment, though. The city lost our most recent one. He left, and so without someone leading that department, right? It's just not a priority project. But yes, it's been on our list, but it's going to have to be self-funded by us.
Okay.
It is on the current urban greening grant that we applied for.
We did apply for, that's right, good point. We did apply for a grant for that location and a number of others for just a landscaping projects. We will find out in October whether we were successful.
We've done a real good job of adding more east-west routes like Highline. I ride over to Cummings Valley or Stallion Springs, and it's real dangerous once you start heading to the west side of town. Valley is very dangerous. Once you get to Cummings Valley Road, then it's beautiful. You can take that way. But it's really hazardous to go from Old Town Road, I think.
100% agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to answer that.
Also, Banducci is also very dangerous going up that way, too.
And my hands are so a reminder, my hands are somewhat tied. You're in the city of Tehachapi. The moment you pass McDonald's, you're in the county of Kern.
Okay.
That said, to that end, I've had repeated meetings I've had meetings in my office where I've literally called Caltrans and County of Kern and said, can you guys get up here? I know this isn't city jurisdiction, but this is a serious hazard, particularly the section you're talking about. And literally the two of them do this. They go, well, that's Caltrans's project. And Caltrans goes, no, that's county's the problem. So we have recently, both the county and us have recently been on the same page about pushing Caltrans to, especially if SB1, and I know gas taxes is a political third rail, so I don't want to upset anybody, but I will tell you all, SB1 don't believe the rumors. It's real money, and it is literally coming to us. It's not being diverted in Sacramento. I know that I've heard family members tell me, oh, it's never going to get to us. That's actually not true. SB1 money has been, checks are mailed quarterly to us. They are coming. It is, as far as all this stuff is concerned, relatively easy money to spend. They send it with almost no conditions, which is amazing. State never sends us money without conditions. And we are beginning to program projects for the coming few years with that money, but of course everyone knows it's going to be on the ballot for a potential recall in November. So anyway, back to your point, back to my point, your issue, Caltrans is for the first time considering making improvements on that route, but they had told us if SB1 goes away, there's no project.
Okay, the last thing I wanted to know about was the railroad crossing that you're talking about.
Yeah, so that's, we are still negotiating with Union Pacific, which is an extremely lengthy process, but the design is done. And we'll hopefully get under construction in 2018, but it may be 2019.
An overpass, or what is it?
No, we're just improving each of the 3 at-grade crossings.
Oh, I see.
Smoothing them out, putting in bike lanes, putting in protected medians to keep cars from crossing the tracks, putting in ADA compliant walking paths on both sides so that you can get from north side
But no
to the
additional
south.
crossings?
No additional crossings.
Okay.
Okay. All right, how about go ahead. We got a little more time.
I'm sorry.
We're fine.
Tucker Road, I'm assuming there's going to see some tremendous changes with Walmart.
Yes.
Can you kind of share with us what some of those changes are that are expected? And I mean, pedestrians like running across.
Yeah,
You know?
2 new signals. Don't blame me. Don't be upset with me. There'll be 2
No,
new
I think
signals.
it's good.
And then raised median, the entire mile from Valley to Tehachapi Boulevard are the primary improvements to Tucker Road. So there'll be controlled access points where pedestrians are expected to go. With controlled access points, you can actually ticket for jaywalking. There's a weird kink in the law that says you can't ticket for jaywalking if there isn't a controlled. And the median is just absolutely necessary. We've got there's just too much permeability from the businesses out to the road. And if all of you guys are nodding your heads, I've driven it 100 times too, and it's kind of sketchy sometimes. But it will result in reduced flexibility in terms of access to businesses. There will be access to all the businesses. It should be pretty free and clear, but it's going to take you a little longer. So if you make that commute, just when and if Walmart goes, then you're going to need a little bit more time. So, Don, did you have a question?
I was just going to make another suggestion. You have done a lot of good improvements to Curry, around Tompkins particularly. One area that could continue that is all the way over to Denison.
Pinion, the extension of
I know
Pinion.
you can't extend the road necessarily, but if you could get a walking path.
I might be able to extend the road with different money, and that is on my target list for the coming couple of cycles. But this money can't be used for that. But yeah, 100% agree.
3 kids who
So I'm gonna let y'all.
from there.
Yeah.
That's like a freeway at
Sure.
afternoons going.
Yeah, and that's the metric by which a project of that nature gets measured. So anyway, we'll see. So,
I got one question. On Elm Street and Cherry Lane, there is a bike path that hasn't been finished, a class 1, between the housing complexes that would run, it's supposedly here to the map, it would run all the way up to Curry. That would be tremendously helpful with the traffic that we get at Thompson School twice a day.
Yeah.
That place gets busy.
the problem with that is it's really a pretty dotted line on that map.
Yes.
And there are sections of existing gap between houses, but there are a few missing pieces.
Oh.
And so other than blading someone's house, acquiring someone's house and blading it to the ground, that project's impractical. So it was one of those great things where the transportation planner, whom I know, who did that map, was kind of, when I got it, the project was finalized, it slipped through our fingers the first time we reviewed it, and I went, well, that path is not possible. Like, it's one of those, so
Okay.
I hear you, but that's part of the reason why we want to make the improvements on Cherry and put in the crossing, because we do know that a lot of folks, a lot of kids and adults walk.
Yes.
And eventually, hopefully, Pinion on that side of the street would be widened out on the south side, so that if you're at Tompkins, you could cross Curry and come straight down Pinion and then kind of work your way
That'll
through the
work.
neighborhood. That would be an improvement too. So that's actually a good one to keep in mind. So that'd be the south side of Pinion from Curry over to Applewood. Anyway, just a thought. So I appreciate that. Great. This is great feedback. This is exactly what we're trying to do here. So how about with that? Why don't I let you guys? My plan was just to give you 10 minutes about these 4 projects, and then release you guys. The staff is here. We'd love to talk to you one-on-one about your thoughts on an individual project. And again, the point for us, these applications are due fairly soon. So a lot of the feedback we receive for you we're going to utilize in considering projects for the next cycle. But we would love to know whether you hate or love or don't care about these projects that we're pushing forward. And anyway, let me run through them real quick. So the first one is Tehachapi Boulevard. We're calling it the Tehachapi Boulevard ADA Reconstruction Project. I will tell you guys, grant writing, I've done a lot of grant writing for the city of Tehachapi in the last 14 years, is all about telling a story, and telling an effective story, a truthful story about what a situation is. So as you guys know, and the laser pointer won't work here, but we just built the bike path here on the north side of Tehachapi Boulevard. And so this one little set, and we've done all kinds of public street improvements up to Hayes, using ATP or very similar to ATP funds up to Hayes, and then we've also done Snyder over to Denison now. But this one piece here from Hayes to Snyder has been missing, and it's pretty beat up. There's a lot of power poles and different features that prohibit somebody in a wheelchair from making access. And then it just so happens to correspond that sort of our number one location that receives a lot of pedestrian visitors, a lot of disabled visitors, the Salvation Army, it happens to be right in the stretch. There isn't even a handicap ramp here on the corner, and so that's the target of this project. And here are a couple of photos for you. These are grant writing gold right here. You guys can, because they illustrate our point, and pictures do so much better than all the words we can write about it. A person of limited mobility who's literally having to lean on a telephone pole to get up the curb, or people who are rolling boxes that are going to have to pick those up and may not be capable of picking them up. Sections where if you're in a wheelchair, this is pretty difficult to navigate, or if you're, you have low vision, this would be difficult to navigate. In addition to it being in pretty poor quality.
Yeah, real poor quality.
This ramp isn't even close to compliant. I know it's a ramp, but it doesn't meet current federal code. This kind of stuff. So even this is not compliant anymore. So all that kind of standard driveways are no longer compliant. That's why you might see when you see us build a new driveway, we build sidewalk behind it, because that's required to keep it compliant. So this is a great project in our opinion. We think it also is helpful to target a certain dollar amount when you do these. When a little city of Tehachapi goes after a $5 million job, we don't usually get as much support, because the people who review these they're looking for LA City to ask for that kind of money. So this is a really good gap closure project for us, and we think this one's got a good shot. So the next one is West Park frontage. This is one of those ones where we really feel like we know the skate park's here, and you literally have no way to get to the skate park without crossing the street, and probably in an unprotected location, because if you cross down over here where there's an intersection, there's not an effective or completed sidewalk between there and the skate park. So the odds are the kids are skating down here and then jaywalking or skating across the middle of the street to get to the skate park. Or we know that when Little League is here, this place blows up and people are everywhere. And so, frankly, when there are a lot of kids and adults distracted, kids have the habit of being distracting. And you parents, I'm speaking the truth. And so this is a really, really valuable piece for us to be able to allow somebody to park along here, shuttle their kids immediately to the sidewalk, and have a nice, clean, straight shot access to the park. And so that's the basis of this one. These photos give you a sense of the quality of the infrastructure in that area, or the complete lack of infrastructure in this area. When we build this, we are going to have to build a little retaining wall to deal with that slope difference, but that's frankly not that difficult to do in my world. Here's another picture, a couple pictures of it to show you all what I'm talking about. So while the grass works for most people, it certainly doesn't work for a person who's disabled, and it's not always great for little kids, because you never know what they're going to do. Nice straight sidewalks tend to be your best bet for keeping keeping kids where they belong, at least while you're shuttling them in and out. So that's the purpose of this project. The third one we're going to present here is the Denison Road. We call it Gap Closure Project. So this, we've already succeeded in receiving ATP money down in this area, where we completed sidewalk down Denison and then down Anita to the front door of Tompkins. And that allowed us to access the neighborhoods that lie south and to access the neighborhoods that lie west of these two schools. But we do have the neighborhoods that are down here to the north, or up here, however you want to look at it, to the north. The ATP project that I mentioned earlier, where we did the big improvements to the rail crossings, are going to make major improvements to the Denison overcrossing, including continuous sidewalk the entire way. So if you live in Ash Tract, you would have a complete continuous path to here. And then, as you all know, we did some major improvements through here as well. So we are missing, though, this gap. On one side of the road, we have the mobile home park that narrows the road and no path of any sort. And in fact, even though you can walk in this ditch area, it's like 3 feet wide between that and the edge of the road. It's dirt, so it doesn't work during adverse weather, and it's kind of unsafe during any weather, being that tight. The other side of the road has plenty of room. That's this piece here. And kids do walk it. But again, the adverse weather situation, again, this is a small project in our world, very small project. And it allows us a great opportunity to kind of make a primary link. So the proposed project would be sidewalk through here and then just finishing the pavement out to make it
Is
clean and tight.
that going to be a Class 2 lane on Denison?
Yeah, we would probably have room for it. That's actually a very good thought. That we'll see. We might consider adding that to the narrative, guys.
All the way
So,
up to Highline?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think we can get to Highline because we don't have enough room south of the school.
No, you need to add me about it.
But you could do a Class 2 to the edge of the school and then do a Class 3, which is a shared bike route up to Highline. So you guys think, for those of you who cycle, would that be, do you guys cycle Denison?
It would work, but boy, when everybody...
Class 3, I don't like Class 3
No,
at all.
I don't like them either.
Nothing.
But that area is outside the city limits.
Especially at about 3 o'clock, because you've got Pinella Jones out there, one after another.
Well,
hitting
yeah.
Highline, okay?
Yeah, well, about 3 o'clock, I wouldn't ride my bike near the high school if it saved my life. But I was a high schooler and drove a car, and anyway. So that's this project. Good, very good feedback, though. Let's consider that team when we get back to the office. Just to the 4 projects we're proposing this year. This is Snyder Avenue Gap Closure Project. So we have pieces of sidewalk largely in front of the existing school, in front of JMS and in front of their facilities. This is the Mormon church here, but we have, limited access here to connect the school to JMS. And then one of the most important things is we have a completely kind of porous set of improvements on the west side of the road. So does everybody know where, here I'll show you a photo, it's easier than showing you this, you guys can look. So this is the west side of the road. And we have extensive pedestrian traffic on that side of the road. The kids are dancing in and out of these cars,
Well, it's
Kim, you live there,
it's
so.
a major route for everybody that walks.
Yeah.
To go to the middle school, and
The
there
reality
are
is all these neighborhoods feed it.
moms pushing strollers, and they're in the road, and kids on skateboards, they just dart across the street.
And yeah, D is the primary controlled intersection where kids cross from that side onto the school property.
But you can't see
Yeah, it's,
The wall.
coming out of the driveway because of the pump,
yeah.
The brick wall.
that brick wall.
Okay.
You can't see.
I don't have a picture.
Oh, yeah, this one. Yes.
Yeah.
And I'll show you what we'll do about
When you
that
come out of that driveway,
if we
you can't
succeed.
see it all.
Yeah, it's all, and the whole point was to give folks that are coming through the neighborhood this direction, or from the Hayes, from the north, if you live in the neighborhood north, you probably walk across the Hayes crossing, and you may now
They
stay
go
on
to
our bike
Circle
path.
K, and then they come through the park, and then they go down D Street.
Okay.
I can tell
Yeah, you got the whole route worked out. So anyway, the whole point is to try to finish it up, clean it up. Again, making our schools more attractive in addition to making it safe and comfortable for pedestrians, which is a big goal as part of the project. The desire is to get kids out of cars as much as possible, make parents feel comfortable to let their kids walk to school instead. And these kinds of moments, as a parent of a 13-year-old and 11-year-old right now, like these are the kinds of places and moments where I go, I think I want my kid walking here. I'm going to drive instead. And that's okay. There's But the goal is to get them onto the,
Well,
yeah.
and there's a lot, you would be surprised at how many people walk from up by Anita and in that area down to Salvation Army
Yeah. Oh, that's
to
a-
get food and pull their carts. I
Is
see
it on your
them-
list? You may want to add that to the narrative. That's a very good point.
I see them going
Yeah.
north on Snyder all the time in the
So-
street.
So one last comment, and then we're done. Is yes, the pump is right here. For those of you who've driven this, there's a well here, and the road offsets in width through this intersection. Years ago we sort of striped this area to try to get motorists to shift over and clean up sight lines, but stripes don't. They only work on people who are paying attention. They don't work on the people you're most trying to control, the people who aren't paying attention. So the part of this project would include actually bulbing out this intersection with physical curb and gutter and sidewalk to fill that in. And that, like you see in downtown, that has a very good effect at funneling cars to where they belong and separating them from pedestrians or bicyclists or parked cars, etc. So we're paying attention to those kinds of things, and I think this is a great project. So I think with that, I think that's the end of my presentation, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's do this. All of these guys back here have been knee-deep in this stuff for a month now, and they would love to hear what you guys have to say. So take a minute and look at the projects, and we're just going to hang around for a while and answer your questions. And if you think of anything else, a different place in town we didn't talk about earlier, please still tell us. And we really appreciate you guys coming out. All right, thanks.
Good presentation.
Thanks. So the way the city handles it, the federal government, because cities everywhere are instantaneous, is the federal government has laws that traffic code requires us to produce an but then allows us to, if we have a plan in place. Well, we're working our way through the streets one at a time. Yeah, I know, I appreciate that. No, that's exactly what I wanted to hear from the truck. And if you guys ever did any kind of specific spots repeatedly used, and this is where you have to park to get to this business, those can really help us if we know one that's already specific. And we've spent a lot of money downtown. Hopefully that's pretty accessible to you guys.